Hi, welcome to my library. My name is Donna Van Stone, and I write as D.V. Stone. I'm an author of Felice, Shieldmates of Dark, Australia Burns. I have a short story in there. Australia Burns is a fundraising book done by my publishing house to help with Australian wildfire relief. So all proceeds are donated to that end. I also have a book coming out on April 6th by the name of Rock House Grill. That's a shout out to all my EMT and first responder friends. And I wrote Agent Sam Carter and the Mystery at Branch Lake. And today I'm going to be reading to you a little bit from that. So I hope you enjoy it. Agent Sam Carter and the Mystery at Branch Lake. This book is dedicated to Carter. He asked me to write a story about him having a long mustache and riding a motorcycle. Late fall, Branch Lake. Dispatch call, Northwest USA. 911, what's your emergency? My cabin has been burglarized. What is your name, sir? This is Larry Frank. My wife, Belle, and I just got here. The door is open. Any signs of the perpetrator still in the area? Nope. Law enforcement has been informed and will be there shortly. Do you see anything else suspicious? Now that you mention it, two other sets of ears listened in on the 911 call. Each had their own agenda. Chapter 1. Agent Sam Carter placed his helmet over his head and started up his sleek black Harley motorcycle. His long mustache trailed out from under the face mask and fluttered in the wind as he peeled off, leaving a rubber streak on the pavement. His orders came down just this morning. Agent Carter, your vacation has been canceled, said the voice on the telephone. Strange things are happening in the Northern California hills. Houses are being broken into, and only food is taken. You are to assist law enforcement in determining who or what is responsible. Leaving the warm, dry city behind, Sam mulled over the information which Sheriff Holly Stone, his contact in Branch Lake, had emailed him, along with the photographs of large footprints left in the moist soil outside the last victim's cabin. He'd seen prints like this before. This was no hoax. Each cabin that had been broken into was empty this time of year. They were summer places near Branch Lake, about an hour's drive from the coast. The forest around the lake was a prime vacation spot for the lucky few who could afford to spend the warm months in the old-growth forest. Fishing was a major activity, and Sam hoped that he would be able to cast a few lures during the downtime in the investigation. Zooming up State Route 1, along the Pacific Ocean, he felt like he was still on vacation. My behind won't think it's vacation after a 9-hour drive, he thought grimly. All things considered, he was going to enjoy the ride and settled in, appreciating the changing scenery as he drove north. He rode the coast highway for as long as possible. The air, with its tang of salt and surf rolling onto the beach, led to hillier terrain. Soon cliffs were being hit by waves. Monoliths out in the Pacific waters shot up spray when the breakers crashed against them. Denser forests began to surround him. Finally, he reached a point where he had to veer west off of Route 1 and into what seemed another world. The night was beginning to fall, and mist floated over the road. The patches of fog were dense in some places, and Sam needed to slow down. I bet the deer up here are big. Running into one on his bike would surely leave a mark. Just before full dark came on, he pulled into the small village of Frank's Ford. He parked his bike in front of the only business open. The light shined out onto the sidewalk and seemed to invite him in. Yup, he said out loud to no one, I could use a bite to eat. Sam tucked his helmet under his arm and headed to the little restaurant, walking stiffly. Opening the door, the smell of burgers and fries made his mouth water. He looked around and noticed a few patrons scattered about. They seemed to be enjoying the simple food. Sit anywhere, called one of the waitresses behind the counter. I'll be with you in a minute. Where's your restroom? Sam called back. He wanted to wash up before eating. Around the corner, second door on the left, answered the other woman without looking up from her task. Sam set his helmet down on the empty booth seat, stretched, and sauntered in the direction the waitress had indicated. It felt good to be off his keister. It would be even better to wash the road off his face and hands. A few minutes later, and feeling more human, Sam returned to the booth he had claimed and found it occupied. The woman, sitting sideways with her feet propped up, sipped a cup of coffee. Looking at her uniform, he knew who she was before she said a word. "Holly Stone, I presume." "Sheriff Holly Stone," she replied. "And you must be Carter." Sam slipped into the booth. "Agent Carter." "What can I get for you?" The waitress strolled up tableside while snapping her gum. "I'll take a burger all the way, fries well done, and a root beer." Sam placed his order. "Oh, and a brownie if they're fresh. Bake them fresh every day, sometimes twice." With that, she strolled away and put his ticket up on the spinny thing in the kitchen window. The cook, who was sweating behind the grill, grabbed it. "So, do you want to fill me in on what's been going on here at Ranch Lake?" He figured he might as well get straight to the point. Holly flashed him a displeased look. "I don't know why they sent you here. I can handle this without anyone's help." "Holly, look," he started, but she interrupted. "It's Sheriff, if you don't mind." "Look, Sheriff." His voice now had an edge to it. I'm not here to take over, but to help. We have a mutual acquaintance and a particular fireman." "My Uncle Martin called you?" Holly's raised voice caused the other occupants to stare at them. "Take it easy." Sam raised his hands palms out. "Peace, okay? Martin and I go way back. He's like an uncle to me as well." Just as the words exited his mouth, a breeze fluttered his mustache when the door banged open. A huge man filled the doorway, and a deep, loud voice boomed in greeting. "Sam Carter! It's been a long time! How in the blazes are you?" Martin Stone strode over to the booth, the door clanging closed behind him. They grasped forearms in greeting. Sam knew Martin hated hugs. "I'm doing great, Uncle Martin," he said, settling back down in the booth. "You even call him Uncle?" "Shove over, Holly girl. Let your favorite uncle sit down." Uncle Martin folded himself into the booth while pushing Holly's feet off the bench. "I've been nearly a brother to Barry Dooley Carter for years. We grew up near the same town, and she dated some weird sculptor guy named Neil Carter before the fool married him," Uncle Martin teased. "Is he still sculpting those scary mythological creatures, Sam? Last time I saw him, he was acting proud as a peacock and dragging some horse's tuchus behind him." "Yeah," Sam answered, lowering his head and rubbing his face, a little embarrassed by his dad's running through town, yelling, "I'm a centaur! I'm a centaur!" "You know Dad's eccentric. He's moved on, though. Last I saw him, he was working on Bigfoot." At Sam's words, Uncle Martin's face paled, and he shushed Sam. Holly, realizing something was wrong, asked, "Uncle, are you okay?" "I'm fine. Just keep your voice down about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and Yeti in these parts," he whispered while peeking out of the corner of his eye to see if anyone was looking at them. "Uncle Martin, you don't believe in those old stories," Holly snorted, but then her eyes widened. "You do?" Sam sat back, crossing his arms, and studied the man opposite him. How much did the old boy know? Sam wasn't your run-of-the-mill agent. As a senior staff member of G.A.S.P, the Government Anti Specter Program, his specialty was things not easily explained by ordinary means. Before he could ask any questions, the waitress appeared with his food. Setting it down before him, she turned to Martin. Batting her eyes at him, she asked, "Can I get you anything, big guy?" "Just coffee, DV." Sam watched Holly roll her eyes when he winked at her and muttered under his breath, "That's one fine woman." "Uncle Martin, don't be gross. Can we focus on the situation and leave your love life out of it?" Holly pretended to make gagging noises. Sam snorted and dug in. They could yak it up all they wanted, but when food was at hand, he was a man with priorities. "Hungry much?" Holly asked. Taking a swig of his root beer, Sam wiped the foam off his mustache before answering. "Yep, I haven't eaten in a couple of hours." Then he proceeded to demolish the plate, only stopping to mutter thanks to Davy for dropping off his brownie. "Don't you want to lick it clean?" Holly asked with raised eyebrows at his empty plate. "No. Why don't you both tell me what's happening around here? Uncle Martin, you start. Why did you request me and my special services?" "What kind of special services do you mean?" Holly asked, looking back and forth between the two men. Lowering his voice, Sam explained. "For several years, I have been associated with a branch of government that looks into the strange and unexplainable hiccups in our society." "Hiccups?" Holly brow furrowed. "What kind of hiccups?" Sam looked at Uncle Martin, who nodded, his head almost imperceptibly. Instead of answering, Sam lowered his voice further and said to Uncle Martin, "The message I received said I can bunk at your place. Can we go there? That way I can get settled in and we can talk freely." "Let's go." Uncle Martin pushed out from the booth and to his feet. Holly, you follow in your car. I don't want that goofy dog you say is a canine cop drooling all over my windows. Broccoli can patrol the woods while we talk. I'll get the tab. With that, Uncle Morton walked over to square up with D.V. Sam and Holly watched in fascinated horror while the two made eyes at each other. Sam shook his head and hauled himself out of the booth, then turned to Holly with a half grin. Your dog's name is Broccoli? Sam shook his head and hauled... His name is Brock. Holly pulled on the gloves, yanked on her cap. You know Uncle Martin as well as you say, then you know it does me no good to remind him. Watch. She turned to the counter and yelled out, His name is Brock. How many times do I have to tell you that? Uncle Martin didn't even look at them. He just waved them off while continuing to make googly eyes with the waitress. Let's go. Sam, now with his full grin under his mustache. He can follow us. Lead the way. They stomped out into the night. Sam pulled his helmet over his head and groaned as he threw his leg over the Harley. How far is it? 15 minutes, but the road is pretty bumpy up to his place. Sam groaned. He shook his head and lowered himself gingerly onto the seat. Kicking the bike to life, they sped off into the night. Thank you for joining me today to reading Chapter 1 of Agent Sam Carter and the Mystery at Branch Lake. One of the things I do want to show you before we sign off for the day is when I was doing the book, I went around to different local places. And one of the fun things that happened was a friend of mine has a Harley. So it was a freezing cold day, and I'm like, went to him, Harry, come on out. Let me take some pictures of you so that I can put it in Agent Carter. So he gamely signed on and let me drag him up to Stoke State Forest, which is nearby to our house. And we took some pictures. And let's see if I can get close enough so you can see Harry there. So I fooled around with the pictures, editing them and making them black and white, more like a sketch. But that's my friend Harry. And different people or different places will show up as we go further on reading this. So I hope you enjoyed. And I look forward to coming back and reading Chapter 2. Thank you.